everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. Today we are going to be reading some books to help me try and catch up on my Goodreads reading goal. So it's that time again where the year's drawing to a close and my Goodreads goal is getting more and more unattainable. This year has been one of my slowest reading years in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years. It's my lowest Goodreads goal that I've set for myself, and I'm struggling. So this year I set myself a goal of 50 books and I'm at 31 right now. And it's November, mid-November. So that's great. I am rapidly catching up. My reading speed has definitely turned up a lot in the last month or two. But yeah, I'm going to try and get as many books as I can read so that I can catch up. So I'm kind of trying to use this video as well to read some random books that I have been meaning to read, that have been on my TBR for a while, or that there's a couple in here that are the first books in series that I'm waiting, that I need to read the second book for, whether it's on my physical TBR or what have you. So I'm excited to kind of tick a few of those off and yeah, get some reading done. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first book I read for this video is In the Ballroom with the Candlestick, which is the third book in the Clue Mystery series by Diana Peterfront. I'm happy to be done, is all I can say. This is a YA murder mystery series following a retelling of the Cluedo board game. So we have all the original characters from the Clue board game. It's set at a boarding school in Maine, a remote little spot. So there's a murder, everyone's kind of stuck. It's a bit of a locked room kind of situation. So blowing straight through that because I think I've talked about it in every video I've done. So this is the third and final, yay. Everything kind of gets sorted out. Everyone finishes up. I enjoyed some of the characters and their sassiness. Scarlet, mainly. Scarlet's quite funny. But we kind of get Orca's identity reveal. There's some twin swapping that, based on, the first book kind of sets us up that we know about the twin swapping. The second book, the very ending, I'm going to spoil it, but one of the characters dies, and so basically the twins were sharing a life. They both were sharing the same scholarship at this school, and then one of them dies, and it's the bad twin that we don't really know, or the good twin that we know. And then, in the modern day, in the last book, it's kind of the other twin comes in, and we're supposed to think that there's no possibility that he's actually the good twin. I mean, I think anyone could have seen that coming a mile away, so that was really annoying to be proven right about that. It's okay, yeah, that's not a cool twist. Everyone saw that coming. But yeah, this was a 2 stars for me. I'm just happy to be done, to be honest. I think if you were younger, it would be a good read for you, but for me, I just think I was a little bit too old for it. But I will say the ending had 3 alternative endings, which I think was quite a fun way to do that. It was a little bit of, a bit playful, and I enjoyed that kind of theatrical element. But other than that, I'm happy that it's over. Yeah, the series just got a little bit ridiculous with the headmasters constantly getting killed off, and there's these big conspiracies and everything. I just think it moved very slowly, and it seemed like a book that really could have just been a standalone. They could have done all of this in one book, but it got dragged out into a trilogy. So I think if you're a younger reader, you probably would enjoy it a lot more than I did. I think I've outgrown it a lot, so that didn't help. But yeah, it was 2 stars for me, and I'm glad I'm done with it. The next book I'll be reading is The Three Dahlias by Katie Watson. This is about 3 different ladies who are all, I believe, a generation apart, who are all playing this female detective character in various TV shows and movies and stuff. So it's kind of an Agatha Christie character that they're all playing. So they're all brought together, and then there's a murder, and I believe they have to sort it out. So from the synopsis, that's kind of what I've gathered. Again, I try and go into it very blind. I'm a few chapters in now, and I'm really loving it. It's a lot of fun. So there's basically a convention at the author's, the author's dead now, but the author of these books that have then been turned into the movies, and then all these actresses are starring in it. So we're at a convention that's being held at this house, and we have the original Dahlia, who played her in the first movie and is the only one who was around when the author was alive. Then we have the second the second actress who's played her much more successfully. And then we have this third woman who's coming in to play her. She hasn't started yet, she's just been cast. So all 3 of them are at this convention for super fans, and everything's happening. And then the younger actress this is her rise back to fame. She's had a bit of a messy life up to this point as a child actor. So yeah, I'm a couple chapters in, I'm really liking it. It's written really nicely. like, I don't want to say poetically, but a little bit. And the scene, like the setting is really fun. I'm enjoying kind of the big manor house, and watching all the characters interact with each other is quite fun. Like the three ladies, they don't really like each other, and the director and like the event organizer's like, oh, you're part of the Dahlia Club, and you know, the first woman is quite old, not quite old, she's a senior citizen, and she's, you know, likes that she's the only Dahlia, and then the second one doesn't like her as much, is much more outgoing and charismatic, whereas the first one's a little bit more conserved. And then the new girl is, you know, she's trying to fit in, and she can tell both of them don't like her. So it's a fun little dynamic. It's a very unique thing that I haven't seen or read about. So it's a fun little dynamic to read about. There's been no murder yet, but the youngest actress has been slipped a blackmail note, and she's kind of trying to figure out who that is. So we're getting a little bit of mystery from that. But I will check in with you guys again when I have an update. I have finished The Three Dahlias, and I'm going to be giving it a 4.5 stars. It's kind of been bouncing between a 4-star and 5-star in my mind, so I just have to, you know, pick. But it was an incredible book. It really, like, exceeded my expectations. It's such a rich story, and it's almost like a love letter to the golden age of crime, which I think is just so much fun. And yeah, it was beautifully written. I loved so much about the story. I was sick while I was reading this, so I read it in like one sitting, and I was just not feeling like filming. So I wrote some notes as I was reading, so I will go through those instead of having like a full proper check-in, but yeah. One thing I loved about this book was that each day of the conference was told from a different point of view. So it was each of the Dahlias, like their actress, had a day of the conference that was told from her point of view. And I absolutely loved that. I think that helped massively with this book, and why I loved it so much, because we really got to see kind of the differences between each actress and the generational differences, and it just helped us connect with the characters a lot more. I always love a dual like perspective, but I feel like a lot of books do it. They're telling the same event or very similar events, or like right after each other, from different points of view, which can get a bit repetitive, whereas this was quite fun because it was just like each day is a different actress's day. And I like that. It was really interesting to kind of see how each of them handled it. So all three of these actresses kind of they start a little bit tense with each other. And throughout the story, we get to see them grow closer, because all three of them are wanting to kind of do what Dahlia would do, who is this, you know, detective, and solve these crimes. So there's this blackmail, and there's some murder, and there's lots of other little mysteries and floating questions that they're trying to solve and answer. And I mean, it's so kind of, I like that it played on the fact that it's like, okay, these are the three actresses that are solving this murder, instead of just going to the police. And it's kind of in books, you know, where they're like, oh, no one will believe me, so I just need to figure it out myself, and then they look more suspicious. But I liked how the book kind of addressed that straight out. But it was a lot of fun watching the three of them kind of go from this really tense relationship to working together, being the only three, like they could only trust the others in this little club, and they're going together to try and solve this. It was a really beautiful kind of illustration of female friendships, and watching that all unfold, kind of going from very competitive with each other to trusting each other and kind of accepting they're all in the same boat and they can help each other. I loved that. That was just like heartwarming. It was so much fun to read. So I really, really enjoyed that. I also loved that they did like the Dahlia perspectives at the beginning of each chapter. They have like a little excerpt from one of the Dahlia books, which was a lot of fun. It was just a little like sprinkle of, you know, the fake kind of lore of the universe, and that was really fun. But it was a really interesting story. There was a lot of tiny little plots, like I was saying, like little mysteries, and this, like, there's so much drama and backstory, especially because you've got these three characters you're following, so each of them has got a lot going on. And they were all so well fleshed out, and so were all the like additional characters, the plots. I think this author, Katie Watson, did a phenomenal job of setting it all up really quickly, but without you feeling like you were just getting hit with information. Like, it's such a rich, dense world. I felt so connected to the characters, and it was like a 300-page book, and it was so quick. So I really, really liked that, and it makes me very excited to continue the series, which I definitely will be doing. And yeah, I'm just excited to read more from her and in this universe. So Yeah, it's definitely a very, I mean, even as I'm talking about it now, I'm like, should it have been a 5-star? Should it have been a 4.5? I think I'm gonna keep it as 4.5, but it might change as I read on. I think it's probably gonna be like, this is a 4.5 and the series will be a 5-star, we'll see. But there are like 4, I think, in the series, so I'm excited to continue this. I read it on my Kindle and I'm having to like restrain myself from buying the physical copies because they're so pretty. Like I'll put them up, but the covers are gorgeous, so yeah, I would highly, highly recommend this book. If you like English murder mystery, Agatha Christie, Miss Marple, like just anything, just read it. If you like mystery, just read it. But yeah. The next book I'm going to be reading is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. This is the first in the Family Upstairs series. I accidentally picked up the second in the series, which is The Family Remains, which I got from like a library sale and didn't realise it was a series or the second in the series. So as I'm trying to kind of move down through my physical TBR, I thought this would be a good video, or a good book to read in this video, because I obviously need to read the first one before I read the second one. So this book is about a girl who receives a letter telling her who her birth parents were, which is a question she's been wanting to know her whole life. It turns out they're these really wealthy people that lived in a really fancy part of London. They have this big estate that she's getting to move into. And then we find out that they had 4, I think, other kids, and then she meets them and things go crazy, is what I know. So again, I try and go to things as blind as possible. I know it's a bit annoying, but yeah. I'm excited for this. I've been wanting to read a thriller recently, so I think this is going to scratch that itch. And this is the first of Lisa Jewell's works, which I'll be reading. I have a few that I bought at this sale, so I'm excited to dive into them. But yeah, I hope she's going to become a new favourite thriller author, and I'll check in with you guys when I have an update. Alright, I have finished this book and I am giving it 4 stars. I also, like with the 3 Dahlias, I've been bouncing between doing a 4 or a 5-star with this one, and I'm going to settle on a 4. But I kind of went into this thinking, like, how is there a sequel to this? How are there 2 books in this series? But I get it. It is amazing. You could definitely read this as a standalone. They kind of leave a tiny little hook for the next book. But you just want to read more about the characters. Like Lisa Jewell did such a phenomenal job of setting up these characters, setting up these relationships, and it was a lot of fun. I need to stop doing the synopsis before I've read the book, because I love going into books blind, especially thrillers and mysteries, and that's not helpful for you, and it's definitely not helpful because I always get them wrong. So a little correction, the main character inherits this house and finds out who her birth family is, but she does not move into the house. It is like manky, it's falling over, it has not been maintained at all. So she goes to this house to try and figure out what's going on. She is looking into her birth parents and she finds an article written by a journalist that turns out that her parents were in like a cult, and it was like a cult suicide, and she was found in the house like completely on her own as like a baby. So she tracks down this journalist, and then the 2 of them are kind of trying to unravel this all. The journalist is super excited because he gets to go into this house and he's been like chasing this story. So we get to see them kind of finding this, and then the parents had like 2 kids, and then there was another 2 families or like 2 couples and 2 other kids living in this house. So there's so many characters and there's so much like going on, and basically we're just unraveling all that. I don't want to say any more, but it is such a phenomenal read. There are so many twists and turns in this, and it's so much fun because you don't really know who to trust or if the narrator is reliable. It is dual perspective, so we're getting one point of view from back before the parents killed themselves from one of the kids, and then we're getting another just random perspective, and then which you know is going to tie in, but you're like, how the heck does this tie in? And she's like all the way in the other side of the world, and then you're getting this main character who inherited this house. So it's a lot of fun kind of watching those 3 timelines kind of bleed together. I will say it kind of reminded me of The Drift that I read recently by CJ Tudor, because that had 3 perspectives as well. But each chapter kind of ends, like, they don't really, it doesn't go linearly, it doesn't go kind of straightforward, I suppose, because it just cycles through each narrator, which is fine, but it annoys me sometimes because the author just does little cliffhangers at the end of every flippin' chapter. This wasn't as bad as The Drift, but I'm I was like, okay, now I have to read another one. But it was very short chapters, which we love. So it was great. Each chapter is like a couple pages, so you just like whip through. But yeah, anyway, I'm getting carried away. But this was definitely a 4-star. I would highly recommend it. This is making me very excited to read the next one in the series, which is The Family Remains, I think. And then I picked up a couple more of her books. So I'm very excited to delve into the Lisa Jewell universe. And it's making me want to read more thrillers again. I'm just like, oh, it scratched the itch, but now I'm like, oh yes, I need to read more. So, yeah. Alright, the next book I'm reading for this video is At Home in Mitford by Jan Karen. This is the first in the Mitford Years series. I confess I don't know a lot about this book. I'm trying to go into it pretty blind because my grandfather gave it to me, thought I wouldn't like it. So that's basically where we're going with this. But it is, from what I can tell, about a priest who moves into a kind of quiet English village that's perfect, and then things kind of start to go wrong, but it's not dark, but it's got some mysteries, it's a little bit comedic. Yeah, so it is quite a long book. I think it's, like 500 pages. So I'm excited to dive into this, and yeah, I'll give you guys updates as I go along, but I think it'll be a fun little read to kind of go a bit out of what I would usually pick, because I definitely wouldn't pick this up by myself. So we'll find out. Finished At Home in Mitford by Jan Karen, and I'm giving it 5 stars. I loved this book far more than I was expecting to, because it's definitely not something I would have picked up myself, but it was a really great book, so thanks to my grandfather for recommending it. I should learn to trust his recommendations, because he always recommends me things that I would never pick up by myself in a million years, and they're always amazing books. So I shouldn't be surprised I've got another 5-star from him, but this was a great book. It's a slice of life book, so there's not much plot going on, but we are following a priest from a small town in South Carolina, and it's just kind of him going through his daily duties as a village priest, and we find out that Mitford is kind of anything but a sleepy village. He's got oodles of parishioners that he's dealing with. Everyone has different needs. They all love him and he loves them, but he's struggling because he's feeling a bit burnt out. He is diagnosed with diabetes, so he's kind of having to watch his health, and he loves a sweet treat, and everyone loves bringing him sweet treats. So it's just kind of watching him come to terms with this. He has new characters come into his life. A woman, he ends up taking care of a child. A dog comes into his life, and just kind of unraveling the secrets of the parish and the village. I did think it was like a murder mystery, and it isn't. There is a little bit of a mystery in it where like some stolen goods, things are getting stolen, but that ends up, it's not a mystery at all. He doesn't solve, he doesn't solve it, and it's not at all a big plot point, but I love this book. I think this is the second slice of life book I've ever read. The first was Maureen, which I read earlier this year, which was also a 5-star, and that also kind of follows an older character, but Maureen's story has a much bigger plot, whereas this, while there's obviously stuff going on, it's not a big plot by any means. So I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I definitely think I will read more kind of slice of life books in the future, which I wouldn't have expected. I will say it did take me a little bit of a long time to read. It's about 550 pages, and it doesn't move that quickly. It's not, gripping. I still found myself missing it and really wanting to turn the pages and kind of read into it more. But it's not like a thriller or a mystery where you're really invested and you need to know what happens. It's just, you kind of just want to tune in because it's a nice story. But it was lovely. I will say as well, I was sick for the first few books I read in this video, so I got all of those read in like a day or two, and then this took me a week. Partially because I was sick, I was kind of catching up on a lot of stuff in my life, but also it's just a slower paced book. But I really enjoyed kind of reading it at a slower pace rather than rushing through it. But I would highly recommend this book. I'm both sad and happy to say that it's the first in a series, and I think I probably will continue it, not with any rush, but it's a nice story, and if I ever kind of want a cozy, kind of chilled out book to read or listen to maybe, I think I'll definitely be turning back to this series. So I've happily, but also sadly, added yet another series to my currently reading series. Alright guys, that is it for today's video. Made some good progress on catching up with my Goodreads goal, so I'm at 35 books read now, which means I only have 15 left, which is great. I definitely didn't make as much progress in this video as I wanted. The last book I read was pretty long, so I think that kind of threw me off, but overall I'm happy with the progress I made. I'm glad I chipped quite a few off there, and I read quite a few books that I've been struggling to read or kind of meaning to get to for a while, so I'm happy I got those read as well. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider hitting like or subscribing for more content like this. Leave me a comment and let me know how you guys are doing on your Goodreads goals. And if you would like to follow my aforementioned Goodreads, it is in the description below along with my Bookstagram. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys in another video soon. Bye!